Hello everyone, bonjour tout le monde. Welcome to EFA75 on this beautiful Monday, June 8th. I just talked about lest we forget here, and I want to get into the family values that come from lest we forget also. And the family meeting table and the boardroom table that back in March, when all this craziness started taking over our lives, all our lives, I had done a podcast and I explained how the family conference table, the dinner table, and etc., and how those values were strong values I was raised on. My father was very strong on hold the phone. Hold the phone, and everybody sat on the table, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, whichever amount of numbers we were at that time, at that night, at that moment. Breakfast, lunch, and or dinner, even like 3 a.m. Chinese food orders. My father would come back from work with 3 a.m. Chinese food orders and wake us all up. You want to talk about carb, sugar, overload. He would wake us up at midnight, 1, 2 in the morning, and my mother would join right in, and he would feed us all Chinese food. It was hilarious, right? Great memories. But when you look at that, he had one principle at the dinner table was hold the phone. And today when I look at that, I told I had my wife and daughter our dinner meeting tonight, and I've held on to that principle. I've maintained course right from the get-go. I've maintained course, and I've tried every single night to be here for dinner at 6 p.m. I continue to work in silence. My phone goes on then do not disturb, but I can still see all my messages. I still do all my work. I still get on my WhatsApp. I still do business, but I do have that moment that I block it off and hold the phone. I completely hold the phone and I have full conversation with my daughters and my wife. And the reason we have those, you're going to have a lot of unbalanced and balanced messages throughout your whole conversation, and some drama and some fracture and some reuniting and imbalance, right? And love and everything. But the intent of your family's boardroom table, we have allowed the system to raise our children. And whether it's the internet, social media system, television system, government system, school system, I can keep going on system. We have allowed the systems to raise our children, right? And we had a very strong hold on that for the longest time, and then we actually turned it up a notch and another notch, and incrementation on our own right now for family. Because, like I tell my daughters, who are you going to learn from? Right? Who do you really want to learn from? Your foundation should be your parents, right? The matriarch and the patriarch of the family should be your foundation. And that foundation, you better go in prepared, right? Before you have kids, go in prepared. And when you do have kids, it's a continuous job. And I've learned that from a lot of the older individuals that I've worked with in my life that had children when I was a young lad, when I was a young officer in correctional institutions, and working with individuals that raised families and working shift work and etc. And some of them were going through some hard times with their kids. And I remember a lot of those things that never stopped, right? And they were gray haired and they're 30 and 40-year-old kids sometimes. Well, I've met a lot of individuals like that in life, and they still, whether they're 50, they're 60, they're 70, they're 80, they still take care of their children because that's a lifetime job. There's no expiry date on it. So when I look at that, and I look at the family value, and I look at the boardroom table of the family, which is a dinner table, I make sure to maintain that course. So we do have our evening talks, and we have the undisturbed talks, and we go into details, we go into conversation. Right now, I just stepped away. What was it, 7:18 right now. I sat down with them at a little around 6 p.m.-ish, and then 6:15, and then I would just split up a bit. They're doing their thing. I'm doing my thing. Going right back. Now we're going to have an evening together. We're having an evening together, and whatever. People do their own thing, but we're all within a nest. We're all under the same umbrella. We're under the same roof, doing our own thing. I'm working in silence, and I'm staying busy. But those values of conversations will get onto sometimes 15 minutes of conversation and back to what we're doing. Right? And that nest, that building, that integrity of the fabric is what our society needs, because we have stepped away from a lot of the values within our societies, whether it's the good books of the laws, or the good books of the Bibles, or the good books of Socrates. If you go all the way back in time, there's a lot of great structures that were put in place and great laws that were put in place and absolute great value. I'm a spiritual guy. I'm a energy. I truly believe in energy. It goes right through me all the time, depending who I meet. And I look at a lot of the values that are gone, and I want to separate church and government. I'm going to talk about values, about integrity of the family, integrity of faith, integrity of spirituality, integrity of following something. which is structure. And that structure, whether you get it from your Christian values, spiritual values, religious value, it doesn't matter what you get, what you want to grab onto. There's structure that's needed in our societies. And we have allowed systems that is completely fragmented. Anybody that doesn't believe that our systems are fragmented, you must have 3 pairs of rose-colored glasses on, because we have a fragmented system that is raising our children. And if we would have raised our children for the last long time, I'm going to say, wow, probably in the last 30 years, you started seeing the tweaks, the turning, at least 30 years. You started 40 years, maybe 30 years solid. You started seeing the turning. And then like in the last decade, it's been, wow, it's turning, right? But that is because we as a society, we as the fabric, the boots on the ground, the families, the fathers, the mothers, the parents, the people that raise secondary children, the people that raise secondary families, the people that are raising each other's families and loving each other as blended families, all the way through. We have allowed the system to raise your kids. We need to take it over. That boardroom table that I talked about, which is your family boardroom table, that's where they're going to learn. That's where they're going to find out the integrity, the values of a strong society, of how to be part with social skills, how to communicate while looking into somebody's eyes. Isn't that amazing, eh? They can't even look into your eyes now. They're so robotic with all the, like, less screen, more talk, right? More talk, less screen. Let me just repeat it. More talk, less screen. That's what we need. More talk, less screen. And at minimum, block that window. Give yourself that family time that is needed. Whether it's just you and somebody on a phone call, that there's something that you got to really, really put together with a strong, balanced foundation within your life. And that you, the matriarchs, the patriarchs of families out there, take the values back. Take the values back, because at what point did I look at business people, right? Which are the fabric, a lot of the fabric of our society. At what point did we put them in the back of the bus? At what point did we say, business people, back of the bus, go to back? We know you've earned it for 30 years. We know you've given and given and giveth, but we want you to back of the bus right now. How does that work for all lives, all people, all families? Equality for all. Jean-Guy Bourguignon, EFA75.